Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Monday, September 23rd, 2024 Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources Work Session. That's a bit of a mouthful. We have two items on our agenda. Before we get to that, my name is John Kafalis, Commissioner from District 1, joined by my Commissioner colleagues, Kristen Stevens from District 2, Jody Shedek McNally from District 3, and we have our County Manager, Lorenda Volker, here, and we also have one of our attorneys from the County Attorney's Office present as well. Rebecca, shall we turn it over to you?
Sure, that's fine. I'll just immediately pass it over to Connor McGrath, the director of the ranch, who is going to provide a presentation on the ranch's performance metrics today.
Thank you, Rebecca. Welcome, Connor.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Connor McGrath, Director of the Ranch. Thanks for the opportunity to visit with you today in this work session. I had missed out on the opportunity to join my colleagues from the CPIR group on the performance metrics, so I'm going to provide an update on the performance metrics as well as the Larimer County Fair and PRCA Rodeo preliminary report, and also a brief update on the master plan, but I will be back later this fall, maybe early winter, to provide a more detailed update and seek your direction on the next phase of the master plan. So generally, the first section of this report will provide a financial overview. We're going to look a little bit at the operational efficiencies of the ranch, but ultimately we continue to be a key resource and asset in the county. What you'll see throughout the report, we are still coming out of a time where the industry took a downturn due to COVID. And then in general, building back out of the new site that the ranch has become and making sure back to operational efficiencies that we're effective at doing that. So in 2023, we had revenues just exceeding $12 million, and we had expenses just exceeding $15.5 million. So we've talked to our staff, we've talked and shared information with commissioners and county leadership. We're looking at a deficit currently around $4 million a year on the operations and maintenance side. We are supplementing that currently with the sales and use tax, and that's an appropriate use of the sales and use tax. But it's not the best use of the sales and use tax. We really can bring more projects to light that you've seen us do with the new 4-H Youth and Community Arena, the internal and external roadways of the ranch, and the expansion of the MAC equipment indoor arena. So we'll look at additional revenue opportunities within the existing sources. We'll be bringing some of that information back to you also in the winter of 25 to seek direction and approval on different measures that we're looking to generate greater revenue for the ranch. The 2023 versus 22 numbers, I just want to add a little caveat to this. We were using a different metric on how we were measuring utilization. In 2021, the ranch team switched over from the old software that they were using for event bookings to the new software. And with that, it came some opportunities for trial and error on how we were going to measure utilization. The old measure was inflating the use of spaces that had multiple bookable spaces within one building. So it was fine for Blue Arena or the 4-H Youth and Community Arena, but when you could book an event space like MAC or the McKee building, where you've got 6 classrooms and 3 expo halls, if 2 classrooms were booked in the same day, that was considered to be 200% utilization. So we worked through making sure we weren't overinflating the utilization of the facilities. And the 2023 numbers are more accurate and in line with the logical method that I would consider that we should use for utilization. You can see that we are down on utilization for what was the First National Expo halls. We are losing business though in that space as the community grows back out of COVID. We're not large enough. We're able to offer about 38,000 non-contiguous space, and that non-contiguous component, as well as just the 38,000 square feet, it's much smaller. We've seen a lot of events shoehorn themselves into the space to try and make it work. So we'll have an update on how we're going to address that when we come back with the master plan updates later this fall. Sponsorship saw a significant increase in 2023. We can see we were sitting at 1.5 million for Blue sponsorship revenue, which is equivalent to cash. And we increased that by $1 million. We also increased sponsorship revenue from 98,000 for the entire campus up to 320,000. We're going in the right direction with our sponsorship opportunities. We mentioned earlier the different sources of revenue, but I really just wanted to spell it out. No one of these is more important or significantly larger than the other, but there are opportunities, both opportunities that will take longer time to come to fruition, as well as some lower hanging fruit for us to embark on, both with the master plan and with our existing facilities. But wanted to have for you and the public to see the different sources of revenue that we have currently at the ranch. And there's a general fund support to the ranch. It's about closer to $260,000, and that's to cover the expense of the one employee that we have that focuses on the 4-H competitions. And then general support for items such as ribbons and awards, and the rest of the funding for the ranch comes from one of these funding sources or the sales and use tax for the master plan. Earlier we talked about operational efficiency. We talked about that $4 million number. We covered 67% of our operation and maintenance costs with one of the sources of revenue that you saw on the prior slide. We need to significantly increase that, minimally up to a 100% cover, and if we can exceed and therefore reinvest back into the campus, that ultimately would be the main driver for us to continue our mission of sunsetting the sales and use tax by 2039. You can see we've varied over the years. 2020 was a high of 98%, but the nuance with that, we all know the ranch was used by the federal government. Many campuses like the ranch across the nation, their financials are very representative of the same situation with FEMA payments and other payments from different municipalities. So in 2023, the ranch hosted 818 free community events. About 50 of those events were non-4-H events. The remainder were 4-H events at the McKee facility. As you all recall, and were shared in the efforts of opening the new 4-H Youth and Community Building on April 2nd of 24, these free community events were just in the McKee building in 2023. And same mantra, we're going to continue to evaluate how we can contribute to the community, as well as how we can get the community involved more at the ranch, outside of just events. Lorinda had a wonderful idea that actually was not intended to mean anything. At one of our last meetings of generating a Friends of the Ranch concept, of just getting beyond the stakeholder groups for the master plan or for our efforts, some people that are sounding board for us that we can invite in to be friends of the ranch and to help us understand if we're meeting the mission or if we're missing the mark, and making sure that we stay on the right track. We're going to move on to a preliminary report for the 2024 Larimer County Fair and PRCA Rodeo. We had, in the history of what we have of our attendance, over 21,000 people attend the fair on Saturday. So as, again, you all know the rodeo does not start until Sunday. So these are purely the fair numbers. Significant turnout for the unfortunate situation that the community was dealing with the Alexander Mountain fire, and the heat was it was toasty, and people illustrated that they were happy that we were putting on the fair. And it was wonderful to see the midways full and packed and unable to easily navigate around. And that's what we want to continue to be when the community's facing difficult times and when we're all doing well. The junior livestock sale, again, for the first time, there's some nuances throughout the history of tracking the dollar amount raised for the junior livestock sale, but we exceeded 1.1 million. As of the date that I made this PowerPoint, we were just over $1 million. So that's a significant increase from last year, where we were at 922,000. And again, we want to be there for the community, whether we're all doing great, and when times are challenging and hard, the ranch is a unique asset to the county, where it can play a role in all of those situations. And just giving a shout out to the Larimer County Sheriff's Posse. I know we will attend an admin matters event at some point. We had that planned, and then the newest wildfire called the posse into action, and we'll get something on the calendar and make sure we get to recognize the Larimer County Sheriff's Posse. They're just a phenomenal group of people. Not just of what they do at the fair parade and at the ranch and the general fair operation. They work 24/7 during the fair, providing security and resources to the ranch, all on a voluntary basis, and they put on a phenomenal junior rodeo. So special shout out to the Larimer County Sheriff's Posse. Strategic developments, we have opened, with your support, the 4-H Youth and Community Arena. We're continuing, like any new building, we're continuing to figure out the best use of the facility. We're continuously tweaking plans as the Colorado Eagles season starts up. We're going to test additional plans now that we understand how the 4-H Youth and Community Arena fits into the larger master plan and facility. And we've received some wonderful feedback on the facility, both outside of the fair, and then during the fair it was used as a dairy barn. And it was one of the coolest places, physically coolest places on campus during the fair, and it was great to see it in full use. And then master plan implementation, significant progress in phase 1. You've all experienced, and ingressed and egressed on Andalusian, the new Arena Circle, Richard Rule Way, and we're also continuously closing down more and more sections of the service road that was presented to you, probably a little over a year ago at this point, to make sure that we don't have vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic in the same space. And phase 2 of the master plan, again, this is more of just a small update. We'll come back in the fall and winter and provide additional updates and seek direction from the commission. But we have expanded the facilities. We're supporting larger events. We have secured a new large outdoor event that will start in October of next year. We already have a partnership with that event promoter. They bring another large outdoor event. So we're continuously demonstrating our ability to meet the needs of event organizers, event goers, and then grow that client base. We have continued to look at the new hockey facility with the youth sheets of ice, and there is no concept that is off the table at this point. You have all seen the building that we worked on with Populous. Todd Garala presented to you a while back, and that had the kind of the central spine with the youth hockey sheets and with the new arena. That's one concept. We're looking at other concepts and other ways where we could bring these facilities to the community, and making sure that we are diversifying the revenue sources that would pay for such a large project in the community. We're also continuing to look at infrastructure improvements. We will be building out additional parking plans that you would have seen probably over a year ago also with parking lot E. We started that in 2022 and we're going to finish that. But minor initiatives to continuously make the ingress and egress process efficient for event goers, but also safe for our staff that we have out there directing personnel.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Connor. I'm sorry to interrupt your flow, but I was curious, having been out there for, in that area of parking when we have lots of things happening between Embassy Suites and a graduation, and there was a lot happening. How is that, for me, being someone who's been out there a lot frequently for different events, for different reasons, it seems to flow well for me, but I'm wondering how that's working with having the new entries and people learning and the flows, and then also knowing when you have events at Embassy or maybe some other things, and then having parking and conflicting timing. How is that working, and lessons learned, or what's? I mean, it's been. I have to make sure I'm paying attention and learning, but I think that's for everyone. But I'm just curious, any lessons learned or how that's going? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I can envision the event that you were at where it was very busy, and there's going to be times of the year where there's just so many great things happening, bringing large crowds in, that the ingress and egress is going to be understandably a little bit slower. Generally, we seek for a full ingress within 45 minutes and a full egress within 15. We're not at the 15 mark. We're about 22 minutes for a full egress. That's still not bad when you're considering that we have some parking lots that have over 500 parking spaces. The new parking lot that you would have seen like over a year ago will have right around 950 parking spaces. So there's a lot of vehicles that we're moving, and we're trying to be mindful of the one biggest thing we never want to do is back up the interstate. So making sure that we are not causing greater issues globally outside of the ranch. We now work with the same firm for parking and security at the ranch and the embassy. Even the embassy is part of the ranch, but they're their own operator. Having that synergy between the two helps a lot. I have to give major credit to Lieutenant Brad Harkin and his team. They've done a phenomenal job of not just doing it because this is how we did it 20 years ago, and really looking at what is the best way for us to bring people safely on the campus and then get them safely off the campus, and again, make sure that we're not impacting other areas. But having the same firm manage parking in the parking lots has been wonderful. We did tweak some ingress and egress, and we had the Foresters Convention last week. They had the run of the ranch, they had the run of the embassy suites, and we were seeing great amounts of people. It felt like I was on a CSU campus. It was a very, very busy experience, and we had no traffic lines for the entire conference. We have some large events coming up with Weezer and Steve Miller Band, Leonard Skinner's Easy Top. They're all going to be great opportunities for us to test the different ingress and egress patterns that theoretically on paper work for the Eagles, but we're actually going to put that into practice and have a similar crowd, have people that aren't, the Eagles crowd are very familiar with the ranch, having people come from, in the case of Weezer, it's going to be very similar to Tool. We'll have a lot of people flying in that will be using rideshare, that will be in rental cars, so it's a different audience. But so also, Commissioner, we're all human. Retraining any of us after 5 minutes, after 20 years, whatever it may be, I find that we as humans are we like the way we do things, and I would give a shout out to the Andalusian Road. If you want to go to the ranch during any large event, use Andalusian. We see a lot of people driving north on County Road 5. They'll maybe see that there's lanes waiting to go into Arena Circle. They'll continue, and once they get to the old Arena Circle entrance, they can't visibly see Andalusian, so they pull a U-turn and go back and get stuck in all the traffic of Arena Circle. So the roadway and the infrastructure is there. We just have to be patient as we all retrain ourselves to use different ingress and egress.
I actually thought it went well. You're just curious because it is different, and for someone who's been stuck in a traffic jam coming down from Wyoming, for 6 hours, not moving, I think the times have been just really appropriate. And so just a shout out to all the work that you guys have been doing. It's not easy to move people on and off of campus, but I think it's been really innovative and cool. So just curious about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please continue, sir.
Thank you. In closing, we continue with a dedication to ensuring that we're there for the community. Like I said earlier, we will do that in the fun ways that we can, of bringing people in for events and celebrating. We'll also be there when we have disasters in our community to support one another. The financial operation and performance, it still needs work. And it's not an easy task to change the rudder of 20 plus years losing, we're using sales and use to cover operations, and operations really should be self-sustaining. So we're working on it. Please be patient with us, and if you have any ideas, we will be bringing some strategies back to commissioners at a work session later this year. And we continue to appreciate the support that we get from Lorinda, Lori, Leslie, and county commissioners, and your presence at the ranch is always very much appreciated. And staff and the boards, I know they really appreciate knowing that they are supported outside of ranch personnel. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much, Connor. We appreciate your hard work, due diligence, and leadership through all the trials and tribulations and all the twists and turns in the journey. I think we may have some questions or comments, some feedback. Commissioner Stevens, do you have any questions or comments, please?
Sure. Thank you, Connor. Thanks for presenting, and we appreciate the work that you've done to kind of lower the amount that we're taking from sales and use tax. Can you tell me how much, so you said now there's about a $4 million deficit, what did that deficit look like in the past? Was it much higher than that, I assume?
The deficit has been around $4 million for a little while. However, there's some, like any financials, there's some nuances to that. The deficit of the $4 million in 2023 and in 2024 was driven by us bringing services in-house. So we had a lot of consultants. You would have seen this in our 25 budget also, as we continue to bring more services in-house. We had a lot of work was been done by consultants or by vendors. So as we continue to bring those resources in-house, we have a return on investment of about 15 to 16 months on most of them, but we're layering more and more. So 2025 will be the last year of our planned direction of bringing those services in-house, hiring our own staff and our own equipment to complete those services.
Will that ultimately save money then? Is that why that's being done? Or is it quality control, or is it kind of both?
It will definitely be more efficient for our budget. The quality, our quality is there. We don't have a quality issue. The challenge being if we have a service, that person or that vendor shows up and they complete the service and they leave. And like most services, most vendors, it's mostly more expensive than having your own personnel or your own equipment. When they leave, that time is gone. So if you're able to get 20 hours of a vendor or 40 hours with an employee, we can definitely benefit more with the 40 hours of the employee. So even if it were net neutral, we're still gaining those additional hours. But we're aiming to save about 1.2 million by 26 by bringing those services in-house.
Well, that's a very significant amount then. With the Friends of the Ranch kind of concept, is there any, and because I'm thinking of the Friends of the Library, but is there any possibility that they become maybe help, like bring in some dollars from like some private funding or sponsorships? I mean, is that part of it? I mean, I know there's sort of a second set of eyes in some ways, but do we envision them functioning in that kind of way at all? Because, I mean, there's a lot of programming, I just think that sort of lends itself to that kind of giving, people that really care about that facility, so.
I'll provide a proposal later, probably actually earlier next year, but we have a draft proposal where we're very intentional of keeping the two separate. So we're looking at the Friends of the Ranch being a concept with two buckets of individuals. One where it's purely, and in both cases, having transparency of what the program is. One who can be that ambassador that could be more of the traditional development fundraising arm, but I don't want that the possibility of fundraising to be a barrier for some people. So the other set of eyes, having those two concepts divorced, I think will help encourage more and more people to get involved without the expectation, again, of fundraising.
Yeah, and I guess just a couple more questions. One of the questions, first, or one just comment. I think that the flow is much better at the ranch. I think it works. I mean, I remember trying to get out when that road wasn't there, and it took forever to get on that, what's now the service road. So I feel like I wait 15 to 20 minutes less and have gotten out of that parking lot when it's pretty full in 10 minutes, which, I mean, you can't get out of anywhere in 10 minutes. So I kudos on that. I think that that's working really well. And we'll try to get more people on Andalusian. I guess my last thing was, I understand with 4-H that, I think that, I'm not saying that there's been conflicts, but I'm just saying that there's been some kind of misunderstanding around buildings and it's nothing I don't think can be solved. I totally feel like this can be solved. This is one of the smaller issues that we have, and I know you're working on it. So I guess I would just say that I'm supportive of us kind of helping 4-H sort of figure out what they can use and when they can use that, and making sure that we use those buildings to their full capacity. And it doesn't mean kicking 4-H out in any way, but it means, you don't get to reserve the Tuesday every month, and maybe then you come and maybe you don't, or, every room is open to 4-H. I mean, we really need to use those buildings to full capacity. So I think we need to just come to some kind of agreement with 4-H, clubs and 4-H in general around how we use those buildings. But I certainly want to be supportive in any way I can to do that, because I think that getting the maximum efficiency is really one way that we can make sure that we're, if not increasing revenues, at least staying, neutral. So anyway, I just want to be supportive in that way. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shaddock McNally.
This may be a question for another time, because I know you said you're going to talk about the master plan, but, something I was always interested in was the convention center, increasing the conference space and looking how we utilize that, because I do think we kind of have an opportunity there, or have had an opportunity there. So I'd be very interested in seeing kind of your thoughts on that. So maybe offline, just, our next meeting, whatever, that's something I'm very interested in. Because I think I keep hearing, and I heard you say again, we're losing some opportunities from folks because we just don't have that contiguous space, and that building really does need to be, I know it's in one of the things we're looking at renovating, but I'm just curious how we can support that. I really support all the changes and things that you're doing at the ranch. I think it's been innovative and phenomenal. I get in on and off very easily. It's been a lot of fun to get across campus, and it's easy to find things. Maybe I'm just getting used to it, but I think especially the fair and rodeo, the positive vibe and energy was outstanding, and really a lot of people coming and giving lots of great feedback about how much fun they had, and parents saying, hey, I just want to let you know I'm sitting here at the watering hole while my kids are running around. I feel like it's safe, and I know my kids are having good, wholesome fun, and I'm sitting here enjoying myself, and are you around? Do you want to come say hi? And so just lots of great feedback. So I just want to make sure, I don't know if I've shared all of that, but I just wanted to share that with you and your team too. It's just really great to hear from so many families that had a really good time this year at the Fair and Rodeo. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I echo the appreciation of my colleagues. I do think the access in and out has certainly improved, and I don't really like to drive in traffic jams. Makes me a bit nervous, so I appreciate that very much. I do have a couple of questions. I think two of them have already been answered, or perhaps partially answered, but on the concept of the Friends of the Ranch and your response to Commissioner Stevens' question, I was going to raise that question also. But what I was thinking is not necessarily, and I think I understand how, separating them out a bit, but I wasn't thinking so much that if there was a money aspect to this, that folks would be charged with raising money, that it could be a donor base. And maybe there's some logic to some kind of a foundation. There might be some folks who can make, big contributions. So that's how I was seeing that. I don't know if that's exactly how Friends of the Library, but I know CSU and other entities have that kind of thing. Any thoughts there, Connor? I mean, is that a different, or are you considering that as a possibility?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. One thing I think is one of the best concepts for foundations is any foundation that can support an entity in perpetuity, such as an endowment fund. So if we had the opportunity to bring that to the ranch, there's obviously legalities and nuances with local government, but I think that would be a great opportunity, as well as who knows where the concept could grow. We plant the seed, and we also allow the community to give us feedback on how they would like to interact with the concept and watch it grow.
Great. No, thank you. My other couple of questions. One is regarding the junior livestock sale, and it's very good news that the overall sales were, I think, $1.1 million. What do you attribute that to?
Well, there were 36 more animals, so that does drive some of the sales, but still from 922,000 to 1.1 million, that's still a large jump for only selling an additional, 26 more animals, not 36. People, it's a sale at the fair, or after the fair, and the concept obviously is to support 4-H youth, and the more that those youth can get out into the community and they can talk with buyers, they can cultivate that buyer year over year, and the more that we can provide them with a good experience when they're at the sale. I don't have a direct connection back to we did ABC and that resulted in XYZ. We will get more of that direct feedback in our annual survey that we send out in the fall. But we did sell more animals, and that obviously is one factor.
Great. Thank you. My next question is regarding economic impact. Do any of your analyses include regional economic impact, direct and indirect? In other words, I think when the fair and rodeo is happening, there's a bunch of money coming in to pay for the rides, but I think in the end there must be millions of dollars worth of economic impact, people staying in hotels and all the rest. Do we analyze that? Is that information that we could provide to show the benefit of this complex?
Directly today, no. We have a direct economic impact, as well as some studies that were conducted in 2017 through 2019. We have recently onboarded Rebecca Hall, I believe, from CSU, one of the professors, and she is working with a grad student who will provide an annual, this year, the annual indirect and direct economic impact for the campus at large.
I think that would be very helpful, and perhaps that could be included as part of the annual report in terms of dollars and numbers. So thank you for considering that. And then finally, and I think you've spoke to this, with the ingress and egress issues that were raised, I put down carpooling, transit, other, alternative modes of transportation. I think one event you suggested we were pushing ride share and carpooling, but in general, how are we incentivizing or how are we creating the infrastructure so folks have choices of how they're going to get there?
Thank you, Commissioner. The bus route, it was one of our first initiatives on Clydesdale. And that route runs 10 minutes after the hour from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. The route still doesn't meet the mark for getting people back home or back to wherever they parked. So we're working with that. But Colt and the City of Loveland have been awesome to work with and very good partners. We've talked about this concept of making sure we don't have vehicle and pedestrian traffic in the same area. So what we consider is the ADA parking lot between the Expo Hall and Blue Arena. This will be the last season that will exist as the ADA parking. We've been slowly moving ADA parking to parking lot C and D. So it's actually a shorter walk than is from the ADA lot on the Expeditions Hall side. That area is in a plan that we'll bring back to you all as part of the master plan for direction to remove that as a parking lot and turn that into a pedestrian plaza for now. And then eventually that would serve as our rideshare drop-off and pickup. But also during the fair, any of you that are there later in the evening, you see a whole bunch of SUVs lining up waiting to pick up kids, the same as with graduations. That area would serve more of a rideshare area. The one Achilles heel that we have, and we're working with some of these rideshare companies, the infrastructure just isn't in our area. So we've seen the Tool concert, for example, where we had, I believe it was 36 or 38 states represented. And we had people that were camping out in the parking lot at 2:30 in the morning that because they couldn't get a ride share. And that's problematic for us to build out a structure if we don't have our partners there to actually meet the demand. So we're working with two of the larger entities to see if we can help cultivate that. And we meaning more globally than just the ranch. But there's lots of people that are going to Centerra. There's lots of folks that are coming down from Wyoming to shop and eat and dine in this area. So we're working on the infrastructure that's outside of our control to see if we can have those partners advise us.
I appreciate that. And does the infrastructure include bicycle racks? I mean, I don't know how much that has come up as a need. I think there are probably some folks who would like to bicycle to events there, and I think we have wide enough shoulders in terms of safety. Any thoughts there, sir?
Yeah, we have bike racks
Okay.
also between Blue and the Expo, and at the Mac Equipment Facility and the 4-H Youth and Community Arena on the north side. We don't at the McKee facility. I don't envision that facility with the use that it has, with key leaders coming in and multiple youth coming in with their parents. I don't think that's a demand there, but we definitely can keep our ear down to the ground and make sure if there is a need, we can install some.
So maybe we need to add some horse hitches.
Yeah,
To
they can tie off to the
but
fence.
thank you for answering my questions. I believe that's all I have. Lorinda, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'd just say I appreciate Connor's efforts. Moving a facility from being relying on a sales tax to becoming more financially stable is not something that is easily done in just a year or two. And so the work that he's doing, he's really laying the foundation for years to come so that perhaps one day we will not rely on the sales tax or rely on it for different purposes. And that may feel different to the community if you all, or the commission seated at the time, decides to pursue an extension of that sales tax. But the work that Connor's doing is making this facility more self-sustaining. Your support is incredibly important. Things like paying for parking and those kind of things help do that, and we know that they're not easy decisions to make. I think Connor's got a balanced approach when he comes to you with the cost of these kind of things, good data about what other facilities charge, and I know that will continue as we go forward. So I guess on behalf of all the staff, thank you for your support for these hard decisions, changing culture. And Connor, you're just driving forward, doing an amazing job. I really appreciate that. Looking forward to the master plan update. I know we've had some starts and stops, and so Connor and his team are taking a very thoughtful approach about what to bring back, what order to do things, what are the possibilities, and looking for your feedback on that.
Thank you, Lorinda. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we got other things on the agenda. I couldn't agree with you more, Lorinda. You are doing a fantastic job in sustainable, but I'm curious about the apples at the ranch. I saw a post about it, but my husband and neighbors all pressed about 18 quarts of apple cider and tons of apples yesterday in my house, in my driveway when I came home. And I did not participate because I have things, I'm a busy girl right now. So I'm curious, I saw the apples. Is that still something we can go out and pick some more apples in case we decide we want to press more apples? So
Absolutely. Anyone can swing by, and anyone in the community, if they don't know where they're located at the old Arena Circle main entrance. You can ingress in off of the new Arena Circle through the Clydesdale onto the service road and back down.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Is there anything else, Connor?
No, just thank you so much for having me today.
Appreciate your good work. Look forward to the work session where we'll be discussing the updated ranch master plan.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Ms. Everett.
Yes, good afternoon. Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director. Now I know where I'm going to find some apples for the fall. Thank you, Connor. I have a few updates for you today. As you are all aware, you have a land use hearing at 3 p.m. There are 6 items on that agenda, and there's been a flurry of emails to you this morning and this afternoon with memos related to some of those items. So those are printed out for you, and I'll just briefly run through what those are so you're prepared for the hearing. So first on the agenda is an item that was tabled from a previous meeting to this meeting. We received a letter that's for the Riverside Farms second filing, and we received a letter from the Riverside Farms first filing HOA president requesting that the item be either denied or tabled. We do plan to proceed with the item on the agenda today unless the applicant requests that the item be tabled. But as always, you as the board can choose to take whatever action you would like on an item. You can choose to approve, deny, or table any item based on your deliberation and what you hear during those conversations. So that item we are going to proactively move to the discussion agenda so that there's the opportunity for that conversation. So that's item number 1 under tabled items, the Riverside Farms. That will move onto the discussion agenda. And I believe we can put that one up first on discussion.
That was a question I had, the order. Why do you believe we can put that one first? I thought when we take stuff off the consent agenda, it gets moved to the end of the line.
I think that's at your discretion, whatever order you all would like to put it in. I do think that item may be a little shorter to work through than the second discussion item, but you could put it in either. You could do either with it, whatever you prefer. You could put it first or second.
A good point, Rebecca, and your recommendation is that we move that ahead of the already established discussion item?
Yeah, my recommendation would be to just, because that one has already been tabled once and don't expect as in-depth a discussion on it, that we would move that to discussion first. Yeah. You received a memo on 2 of the items that are on your consent agenda, the Scragg ALA appeal and the Austin and Carr ALA appeal. These are 2 similar items. Those memos just contain some revised condition language for the staff reports. There's not a recommendation at this time to move it to discussion by staff, though of course you or anyone in attendance at the hearing can request that an item get moved from discussion. But those will remain on the consent agenda for now with some updated condition language. And then finally, you received a memo about the Bella Vista Resort Cottages Administrative Special Review, in which we received some additional public comments and responses to those comments from the applicant. That item is on discussion, and we just want to make sure you're aware of those additional public comments.
Thank you. Do you have anything else?
Related and somewhat unrelated, we are looking for feedback on our staff reports that go before you for land use hearing items and other items. And you should have received an email from Jenny Axmaker, our planning manager, at one point. So I wanted to thank those of you who have completed that questionnaire already. And if you have feedback for us on the material that we provide to you as decision makers to help support sound decisions in those hearings, we appreciate any feedback, preferences, or thoughts that you may have. And really, those staff reports are intended to support you. So as our customers and audience of those, we encourage you to complete that survey or pass any feedback along to us on those staff reports.
I think I filled it out a while back. Just want to, if you could just confirm, we'll go back.
I can check in with staff. I'm not sure who has or hasn't
Okay, 'cause
filled it out.
If I have it, I could have done it in my sleep and dreamed that I'd done it, but you never know. There's so many things in front of me right now but I'm pretty sure, because I tried to be some feedback. So, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I did it last night, and I
Great.
did get some acknowledgement from Jenny. I did request on the questionnaire, I'd like an opportunity to maybe have a follow-up conversation in person. Hopefully Jenny got that. And I know time is precious, but I think there are some things I'd like to chat about, and I may have left out some things in that survey, but it was helpful, yes.
Great. Yeah, I think we can certainly plan on a follow-up conversation, and maybe we pair it with one of our combined joint work sessions with the Planning Commission. We could do it at one of these work sessions, or we could do it with the Planning Commission, because they also received the same survey and may have some thoughts and feedback too.
Not one-on-one?
If you'd prefer one-on-one, we can do that as well. Yeah, no problem.
Then, is there anything, Commissioner, do you have anything? One final, going back to the land use hearings this afternoon, I'm wondering, with regard to the Riverside Farm second filing amended plat and right-of-way, we have received, as part of that memo from Laura, the planner 2, an additional condition of approval. And I realize you can't get into the merits of that, but I guess my ask would be if Laura will be prepared to explain whether or not this additional condition of approval addresses some of the concerns we saw in the HOA letter. I hope that's a proper question.
Yes, I'll follow up with Laura and make sure she's prepared to answer that question and speak to the reason for the condition of approval and whether or not it relates to the concerns from the HOA.
Sort of think it
Yeah.
does, but, okay, great. Anything else, colleagues? Well then, appreciate your work as well, Rebecca. It is 2:19 p.m. We are adjourned, and we'll see you in about 41 minutes. Thank you. Thank you all.